So I want to show you guys this pedal. Been having a lot of fun with it lately. A friend of mine, Peter, recommended the Yngwie Malmsteen YJM308 as a fun booster that could be found pretty cheaply. And he got his for $30. And I was on vacation in Quebec City and happened to walk into a music store, and they were clearing out brand new in a box Dod overdrive preamp Yngwie models for 69 bucks. So I grabbed one, and yes, I overpaid compared to Peter, but not everyone gets lucky all the time. It sounded really scratchy, which is why they were on clearance. These tend to sound scratchy if you use them with the wrong amp. If you use them with a scratchy sounding master volume or high gain amp, they can sound pretty obnoxious because they're basically stock. That's the kind of tone they produce. What many of you may or may not know is that the circuit of this is almost identical. In fact, on a schematic, they look identical, except for a couple of parts values that obviously the DoD guys used to tweak their product. What makes it cool is that where DoD made a major change was their level control on the MXR, I think is a 50 or 10K pot, and on the DoD it's a 100K pot. So when you turn up the level, you get a lot more level output. If you've done any reading on the Roger Mayer mods that Roger did to fuzz pedals for Hendrix, one of the key ingredients was always an output level boost, and that's how you get that punishing the front end of the amplifier sound. So looked like an interesting pedal, so I picked it up, and sure enough, it sounded fizzy and buzzy, although there are elements of a good sound in there. And I'm just going to show you a little mod I did, and I like the outcome so much that I'm currently hounding another couple of these used, and I'm going to mod up different ones and get different sounds out of them. Also, 2 days after I picked up this guy, I went out and found one of these locally, and they're completely different sounds, even though they're the same circuit, which is interesting. So the cool thing about this is it's real easy to work on. To modify it, all you need is the schematic. There's tons of info on the internet, and basically all I've done in this pedal is change the input capacitor to a higher quality Mallory 150 and split the difference between the Yngwie value and the stock value for the OD250 this is based on. So I think I used 003 or 004 for this cap. The other significant factor in these pedals is the Yngwie uses a 4.7 microfarad capacitor to feed the clipping diodes, which are here. Most people change up the clipping diodes. Most people are changing up the IC. What I found is the composition and the value of this cap makes a huge difference in what the actual clipping diodes end up sounding like in the distortion. So that's an area most people are neglecting that has some major tweakage opportunities. The original Dod OD250 used 10 microfarads, so it's a 1 octave difference in terms of what the clipping diodes are seeing between the MXR and the OD250. And the Yngwie was using 4.7, which is obviously the halfway point between those two guys. I've gone to 0.68. So even less than the MXR, and that really smoothed out the distortion and made the overdrive far more musical. Okay, so the distortion plus. That's pretty much bedroom level. The amp is actually louder bypassed. Oh, the other difference between the two is the MXR uses germanium diodes and the DOD uses the silicone, and the difference is that the silicone clips at a higher voltage, therefore it will be louder with a more harder edge distortion, more fizzy, and the germanium has a more rounded tone to the distortion, but the clipping happens sooner, so it's a lower output volume. Now I'm going to move them off of max gain and see what we get. Trying to match the settings is difficult because the controls are slightly different and they're placed opposite, so you're kind of messing with your own brain. Plus the tapers are different. So there's the MXR. They're so completely different. The DOD is more open. This is where the DOD shines. Once you get the level up and actually back off the gain slightly, you get a real, I just turned up my amp overdrive. Let's see if we can get channel. See, that's where the MXR starts falling apart, is when you get the output level up. It doesn't push the amp as hard and doesn't give you that bloom. This will be a first video in a series. I anticipate by the time I'm done playing with this pedal, I will have come up with 5 or 6 different variations, since there's so many simple ways to mod the circuit. And the cool thing about this pedal is I think it's the missing link between the fuzz face era and the Mesa Boogie built into the amp, customized amp era that came in the early 80s. So a lot of that 70s stuff from Aerosmith, ZZ Top, you could make a whole shopping list once you hear these pedals. Rush, there's the Rush pedal. You'll find those sounds in these guys, and even if you go out and you buy one that doesn't sound good, like a reissue or something, you can go on the internet, and all of the mods that people have looked at will give you a quick overview of where the sound comes from and what you can change up to get your own personalized sound out of this box. So far I've played around with it a few different ways and got 3 or 4 different great sounding overdrives out of it, and so at the end of the day I'm probably going to have 2 or 3 of these done up and pick the best one and stick it on my pedal board.